known Gina, well, we have been in touch since, let me look at my notes, exactly when that was, because I was looking back on it thinking, how long have we been trying to do this? And it was, I was in Atlanta Ballet seeing a performance, and it was 2015, and she was doing this, she was on, I didn't know Gina Patterson, and there was this work on the program called Quiet Walking, and wow, it was deep waters to watch this work. I was struck by it, and we spoke shortly thereafter, I think backstage, right? And ever since then, I've been trying to get her here to do a work. So finally, this idea of New Dance Partners came up, and she's available, and so she's going to be doing this for New Dance Partners. A little history about New Dance Partners. It's Johnson County Community College, and it is a commissioning program where we have an opportunity to be one of many companies who are commissioned to do a work on their program. This will be, I think, their 11th year there was a one virtual year, but 11 live years of being able to present a collaboration of different organizations within the city, typically Williams Henry, Owens Cox, and us, doing some very interesting works that are commissioned specifically for that event. And then we have the opportunity to present that work later if that opportunity arises. So finally, this was the year, and I'm really grateful that she was able to do it. Gina has had an incredible career, and I'm going to have to get my notes because I don't want to miss anything, because you're amazing. She's been choreographing for about 25 years now. Where are you now?
It's hard to believe.
I know, isn't it amazing? 25 years, oh, by the way, over 120 different works in those 25 years. On more than 25 companies. Some of them being here in America, Pittsburgh Ballet, Nashville, Atlanta Ballet, Cincinnati Ballet, Ballet Austin, Richmond Ballet, Dayton Ballet, Ballet Met, Dance Works Chicago. Her works have been seen, commissioned works of hers have been seen internationally in countries such as Italy, Croatia, Germany, Slovenia, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Spain. You know, it's an arm-length list of accomplishments, and that's just what you've done and where you've done it. I know there's a lot more to talk about, but I just find it amazing. As an artist herself, we all wind up starting as a ballet student or a dance student of some sort. And hers began at Pittsburgh Ballet, in Pittsburgh, at a school there, Pittsburgh Youth Ballet, if I recall. Yep. And ultimately, she rose to the opportunity of being able to dance with Pittsburgh Ballet, and then from there into Ballet Austin and to Ballet Florida. And
impressive memory.
Well, yeah. Thankfully, I have notes. And also as a guest artist in many different countries, such as Canada, Iceland, Greece, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, Slovenia, and France. She's performed at the Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, and the Joyce Theater. I mean, that's a pretty good group of, theaters to be able to appear in as a guest artist or as a performing artist. So, and lastly, I just want to read something that, a short quote from a writer in Dance Magazine, which is pretty much the sort of the trade magazine of our industry. If you've never seen it. And it said that Patterson has a voice, that ever elusive thing, and whatever the future of ballet may be, choreographers like her will always have a place in it. And I just think that's a beautiful quote, which I really appreciate, and that she does have a very unique voice, which I saw when I saw Quiet Walking many years ago. And I'm really grateful that we finally have the opportunity to see her work creating something on our artists here at Kansas City Ballet. And I hope that you could see from the amount of time that you had a chance to see what she's been working on, how interesting this work is going to be. And of course, I'm not going to talk this whole time because I want her to talk. right? So,
Really dear to my heart because of, well, the main thing is my father recently passed, so it's still very fresh and new. And so I've actually been struggling, like I've thought a lot about this work, and I really was coming into this for it to be part of a body of work that I'm working on, so something else. And so, but with this life event and everything I've been through, I couldn't help but it started to become something else, and then I had two pieces of art fighting each other and struggling. And so I'm still doing it actually. But I think what started shifting it from what I had in mind before to do to now is I woke up one morning and I found myself just lying in bed, my head's turned to the right, I'm looking out the window, and beautiful aspen trees, and it was so early in the morning, it just looked like the world was holding its breath. And then I fell back to sleep, and then I woke up again. And I kept like seeing the change of scenes and fell back to sleep and woke up and on and on and on. And so that's a factor. And then I was listening to the music that actually of the piece you just saw with the circling. And then I started hearing eyes open, head turned to the right, and these words coming into the music. And I've actually done a lot of writing over the years, but never just for myself, you know, just writing. And then through this process of my father passing, just like it was flooding out, and like I could hardly keep up enough. And I finally got connected with a writing community in Jackson Hole, and so it's just something I really love. And probably like if there's one other thing other than creating, which is the most meaningful thing to me, is like what I feel like I'm here to do. But if there's one other thing, it's writing. And whether I'm good or not, like that's just like it pulls my soul, and I hear things in the same way as I hear and see dance. And so I'll just try to like go a little quicker with this. But the point is, I thought, you know, I'm hearing these words, and I thought it's almost like stage direction, and it's almost like I'm trying to like take the snapshots of time and make sense of them and how time passing, and then also just the fact that everything I do, everything I see, especially in nature, reminds me of my father, and I can't get away from it. And so I started like writing, like to start, yeah, just kind of all those things are infused in it. You didn't hear it today, but you'll hear it. So I guess that's my point. That I wrote something and then recorded it, and my husband put some music to it to blend it with the rest of the music. And I tell you what, like what I had to do to like even get myself to do this. I mean, it's very vulnerable. So I told the dancers I was avoiding it for a week, and then I got sick, and then I told them, you know, I'm really vulnerable, and so be kind to me, that I have to jump in and do this. And so anyway, and it's just a bunch of imagery. I think it's just more, it doesn't have to, the piece doesn't have to be anything. Like you don't have to know what I'm thinking, but it's just a lot of imagery and feelings, just like all cooked up in a soup. I love to cook too. I would love to eat even more than cooking, but anyway. So that's just been a lot of work, especially preparing to come here. So.
Is this your, just to be clear,
Yeah.
she wrote an awful lot of text, poem, that is in the work, okay? It's actually, you'll hear her voice speaking throughout certain sections. Is this the first time you've actually incorporated your own voice into a work?
Oh yeah, definitely my first time for my voice. So this was like, I had to fight, like, I can't do this, no, you know, like I'm embarrassed, I don't know, you know, so I just did it. And I have to say, I feel like it was an important thing that I had to do, I did, so.
When you started listening to the recording, I'm sure you did a few takes here and there.
Oh,
you know,
we did
right?
a lot of takes.
Did
So, and my
was your
husband,
voice
yeah.
just like oh, is that what I sound like? The whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And then how many times I had to read the word just a little bit differently. And my husband's a magician in terms of like tech and sound, so he was able to like really help guide me. But really, I think most of it was from one take, and just, but you know, certain specific words. It was just an amazing learning experience for me too, about like how different you could read this stuff. So anyway, I just, but I didn't feel like anybody else could, in the sense of nobody else could feel how I was feeling about it. And just in terms of the rhythm, like I wanted to, what I was interested in is playing with the rhythm of the words, timed with the dancers, timed with the lights. So like I'm also trying to imagine that like when the lights go out and on, or not quite on. Like, so the lighting is like part of the dance of it. So we'll see how that turns out too. Bert Brown is the lighting designer for the whole show, so I'm really looking forward to working with him again. We've worked together before, so hopefully that'll be something special.
You know, keeping on this, I talk about your writing. Did the writing, how do I say this? Did the writing influence the choreography, or was the choreography first in your mind that then made you think of the words to write?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I think it was more, when I wrote it, I wasn't thinking of choreography. It was only thinking, like, I guess, the emotion of imagery and emotion, I guess, and then how to portray that. I wanted to really give myself a task of really letting the writing be solid as a writing, but also I couldn't help also, like when I started fine-tuning it, like there's a part that goes like eyes open, head turned to the right, the other right, you know, like so I started hearing head turned to the right, beat, the other right, beat, like I started hearing, feeling the music feeling the movement within the words. And then, so it was a real tedious process, especially with the dancers. They were very patient. So, yeah. Does that answer it?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that's great to know too, by the way. You know, you've done an awful lot of work with many different types of arts organizations, not just specifically dance, ballet, but you know, you've worked in the university setting and taught a lot of young individuals who are aspiring artists, discovering their pathway forward. You know, there's a couple of different places that she's taught classes at, such as University of North Carolina School of the Arts, which is very well respected in this country, which goes from, basically 9th grade through all 4 years of college, as well as Pointe University, which is in the Pittsburgh area, University of Iowa Interlochen Arts Academy, and Arts Umbrella in Vancouver, which is a feeder school, basically, to Ballet BC, which I highly respect and get to see in Vancouver quite often. And I'm just curious, what is it like, for instance, at Arts Umbrella, when you're teaching a class, a workshop, you're not really dealing with ballet dancers. So is there a common thread working with our dancers who are more, you know, ballet-centric, if you wish to say, although the ballet world is, you know, ever widening its berth of types of movement that are required in a ballet company. But that compared to, you know, individuals like an Arts Umbrella, which is really a radically different type of movement.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I have to say, like, working with a lot of different types of organizations, like what Devon is saying, actually informs a lot of my movement, but also, like I was saying, how the two pieces were struggling. Sometimes there's a real struggle in, not a real struggle, it's just like really tapping into the dancer in front of you. Like I've really, okay, sorry, I'm just grasping for the words here. I found that I'm able to adapt when I can just be with the dancer in front of me. Like I might have, I see dance more in movement patterns and energy than steps. And so that really kind of opens the door to like a lot of different types of dancers. And then like not imposing my ideas onto the dancers as much as like really seeing who they are, how they move, and start to move their bodies through space. So yeah, and definitely the different groups of people, like if I started in the same place, the pieces would look probably pretty different. And then coming here, I struggle with too, because I like really contemporary work, but then there's these beautiful ballet dancers with technique, and then how do I use the ballet language and still something contemporary and like meet in the middle and like get the most out of both. So I really try to, and then incorporate it in the way that's not swirl, swirl on the floor and arabesque, unless it like kind of eventually goes there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I see creating dances like molding clay, and like here's a big lump of clay, and then like finding the details and the sculpture that's already in the clay.
So, you know, you're working this work, right? And what you saw today, you know, she's in the process right now. It's not a finished work. I think you could probably tell that. But, you know, it's in sections right now. And, I mean, I find that to be one of the hardest moments in the process. At least I imagine for you that would be for me. You know, how are you were saying, one thing you said today, you said you want to get the backbone of this, just while you were in this rehearsal with everybody watching. So are you piecing it together linearly, or is it by what is most important to you, and then you're going to connect it together? I'm just curious about your process.
Yeah, my process is a big mess. I mean, seriously. It's like, can I make it the most complicated way possible? Yeah, so I guess I fought it for a long time, and now I just go with it. But I like to start the different sections and yes, create like a backbone. And like last week when I started, I never worked with the dancers, so a lot of the time, first couple of days were like really getting to know how they move, but also building the language. And I like to talk to dancers about like, it's just steps to music right now, and the soul isn't breathed, you know, the soul is not breathed into the piece yet, it's just a framework. Or like even today, like what you saw, it's a structure, and then I'll get in there and coach the detail of it more when I start, and I'm leaving space like at the beginning and end or different sections, because I would say like once I land the groundwork of it, I'll go through and start like really digging in and feeding people in and out here and there, and kind of like thread the soul of the work, if you will. So it's a very non-linear. And it drives me crazy. It keeps me up at night. So, yeah, it really does. But I mean, I see it, I've just learned that it's better to. I have the easiest time, like just in front of the dancers, you know, and then guiding in the present moment. It's not that I do tons of prep work, and I have like again framework musically, but not step per step or step per count, I should say. Yeah, and then in the moment, if something's not working, I just change it. So it's really done really in the present moment, which I think, for me, that's a really important lesson anyway. Like I want people to be fully embodied and authentic and present in the moment so that they can listen and respond like to their own bodies and to each other, so that there's something really organic that starts to happen in the piece. And, you know, like we can kind of go through our lives like on our phones and bumping into each other, but I want dancers to really, you know, that they can bring out into their life, really kind of open up the sense around them and like know that there's people beside them. Even in the partnering, like you just kind of grab hands sometimes and go, but I really want them to take the time, take the hand, feel the connection, merge that, and then try to dance from there. And it really, like, it's tedious, but to take the time to really talk about that and get them really listening to each other and themselves, not just plowing through, I think, gives a real visceral effect. Hopefully you'll feel, hopefully we'll get there at the end of the piece before Friday.
There you go. Maybe you could talk about, I read this somewhere, about your attention to the space between dancers. And I find that an interesting statement, not just the dancer, but the choreography of the non-dancer, the place between. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that in this work or any of your works.
Yeah, I was even talking to the dancers the other day about it. Like, we have our physical bodies, but like really, I think what happens, okay, let me see if I could, it's like in music, the silent moments really punctuate the music that you hear. And so for me, like all this busyness, okay, there's a different approach. Let me start here. Like if there's our two bodies, there's a lot that happens that like energetically that extends beyond our bodies that I feel like our physical bodies like carving out that space, but if you're doing it like in the way I'm looking for it is what's the empty space that we're carving out as well, like as something visual. I don't know if that even makes sense, but let me try another approach to that too. Like the space, like I told the dancers, there's so much, you saw so many steps happening, but really that's the background, perhaps, for a moment of like stopping and seeing each other. And like all the steps are just to come to this moment, like this little in-between moment of silence, even if it's for a half a second, as you can see, there's a lot of notes and a lot of movement. So yeah, I think, is it like Tibetan culture, there's something called the bardos. And it's like the spaces in between, like time, like from time, it's like from death to afterlife, like the place in between, or afterlife to rebirth, like for that philosophy. It's like the hover, or you could say between heaven and earth, like just the place before, like just kind of a liminal or like an in-between state. And I don't know, I just love that, and I think it's the places that touch us when we don't really even understand it. I don't know, that was a lot of words. Not very much space for in-between.
No, I think it's really interesting that, young choreographers especially, it's about the steps. What are the steps, and I think that it's that incredible sign of maturity as an artist when it's the whole stage that matters. It's not just necessarily what's going on over there with actual dancing, but what is invisibly going on over there and how that influences the actual choreography, dependent upon the light. You were talking about the light and how the emphasis is brought to one particular part of the stage or not. And I think it's really, I look forward to seeing the work in its on stage in Johnson County Community College, to see this idea of negative space, or that space between us, be more present. Because I think it takes a certain kind of choreography to be able to actually have your eyes open to that space and not just look at, well, how good are their feet, or how high is their leg, but to actually see the mood that the whole stage is creating. So, looking forward to that one. Yeah. I did want to, you tackle interesting subjects. You do. First and foremost, the one we're doing. By the way, she never mentioned what the title of the work is called, which she woke up one morning. Actually, it was while you were doing dishes, you say. You want to tell them?
Sure, yeah. Inspiration pop in the oddest of times. And yeah, I was just working the piece, listening to music. I hit a wall, so I was like, okay, dishes time. And then, because I was like, what's the title? And then this title, just While the World Was Laughing, came to me. And I think it just speaks to a couple of different things. I think it's just maybe poetic for, you know, we never know what's going on with the person next to us, or that we pass by, or at the coffee shop, and, you know, like, what they're going through in their life. And, you know, we can just kind of go by, and it's easy to criticize people, but, you know, what's really going on? It's shocking to me every day, the struggle and suffering that people go through, and how they keep going, you know? So I think that, you know, yes, this is my situation and what I'm talking about, but it's really about everybody who's suffering quietly, you know, and just making it all happen while the world just goes on, fast-paced and, you know, social media joyful, you know. And yeah, so there was that. But I was also contemplating, you know, in the depths of my own sorrow, like, how the heck does joy fit into this picture now? And will I ever find it again? And where is the light? And where is the joy? And then somebody said to me, you know, it doesn't mean joy is void of sorrow. And so then I was like really also contemplating then, how do these both joy and sorrow reside in the same place, in specifically my heart? You know, so I just like had to start looking for the joy and the light, which is a constant like search, although like nature has always provided that for me, or it's offered me a respite to be able to see the details and the beautiful small things all around us. And so yeah, I draw a lot of strength from nature, and that's where the title came from, which is, yeah.
It's really a wonderful title. It really is. It says a lot about the work, and I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, no, thank you. It's thoughtful, you know, and it's more than just, you know, some word, you know. It really does say a lot about the sort of the underlying meaning of the work as a whole. And having been through some loss of my own, it's something that actually I was getting a little emotional in rehearsal earlier today, especially after I read what you said and what will be the program notes. So I think it's a work that's going to touch a lot of individuals, and I appreciate that. It's good. And that brings me to this crazy reality of what Gina Patterson does. She takes on these really tough subjects, and I mean, you know, it's not easy. You know, they are tough subjects. So she's done works dealing with civil rights, with ageism, anti-Semitism, women's suffrage, and the Trail of Tears, and now how do you go on after death and find joy? I mean, these are heavy, heavy, heavy subjects. Why do you take on these kind of works, Gina?
What's that say about me?
Wow.
A lot, mainly because I'm asked a lot. I don't know, they just come to me, and I get some people I know, you know, that have commissioned me. They're like, oh, okay, I didn't know who else to call. I knew you could do it. Like, there was a director that said, I don't know how to touch this, but I knew you can do this. And so I just feel like it's really important, I don't know, for us to know history. I'm not doing it justice. It all comes down to just being human, I guess. And like, I really try to approach these subjects with sensitivity and openness, and do my research.
you know, it wasn't really a thing 30, 40 years ago.
I would have hated it as a dancer.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
you said, well, if somebody can improv, you know, so do you bring that into the actual performance, or do you mean improvisationally speaking in the creative process, or do you bring it also to the actual performance?
Yeah, both. Like, especially if I work with contemporary dancers, I will leave, okay, like this section, like for these 4/8, it's improv, or this section, do you feel good just taking it? Okay, great, you take it, and then, but I'll still build a structure around it, so like, there'll be like a framework for some improv time, but usually it'll improv until it's codified.
Yep.
You know, but like if there's some, like in Jackson, there's a couple women that are just like amazing improvisation dancers. I mean, it blows my mind. So they've taught me a lot. Like, I still like to shape them, but boy, they like, especially in the process, it's really amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always amazing when somebody can just pull it right out of their hat.
Oh, yeah.
There it is, like 64 counts, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, was that what the choreographer told you
Yeah.
to do? No, I'm supposed to improv here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, seriously, if
Yeah.
I, as a dancer, I remember the first time I was asked to go to the center with a partner in improv, I was like sweating, I just was so scared, I didn't know what to do, but anyway, I did it. But it was a scary time.
And I know we have a few students here, so I would say, if you're hearing what I'm saying, be comfortable doing improvisational work, because it is very much growing in our art form.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, you just got to be able to do it, and it's uncomfortable at first. It truly is uncomfortable, but I hear it can be actually quite freeing once you really listen to your own inner voice.
Yeah, which brings it back around to your voice.
Right.
And I would say, yeah, it's really empowering just to make a choice of something, right? Like not just having somebody tell you what to do, but actually make choices along the way. So.
I love this little thing here about you and about your unique voice as a choreographer and your questions that you ask, which I think are great. I mean, I've come to understand you're experimental. You're always looking for a new aspect of your creative voice, as well as the world around us, and you know how dancers interact with the world, with the work, with themselves. And I love this, that you're continuing to ask, what else? How else? And is this true? So maybe you could explain those three little quick statements just a little bit more.
Yeah, I've never been the kind of choreographer to just rely on a formula. You know, I just know, I've known choreographers that just like, seen different pieces, I'm like, oh really? That's like exactly like the last one I saw. But like for me, it's just not interesting. I just always wanted to challenge myself. Okay, I did it. I just remember I've been doing it so long that when I did something with a ballet company and turned one couple the other way, it was like groundbreaking. I didn't understand it, right? I really didn't understand it, but it was groundbreaking. And so for me, yeah, it was just always asking, okay, but what else can we do with that? And not just settle, like even now, 25 years later, I think it's the reason I can still choreograph, although sometimes I'm just bored as heck. You know, like, how can I, don't repeat that. I did something the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I did that 25 years ago. Can we do that a different way, just like stick a leg out again? You know, so it's something different. Yeah, but I just think, you know, so always asking what else and how else in the approach, in how I'm working with dancers, and how I'm talking to them, not just the language. And then, is it true? Like, just, I think it's really important to not get stuck in what we think is true, and like, maybe there's another way to look at something. Even in like why is the dancer doing, okay, well, maybe it's not the dancer, maybe it's you. Like, so just kind of looking, it just speaks to perspective, I think, and the willingness to not be, you know, you can believe what you believe, but you know, maybe at some point there's a shift. and that you should maybe embrace another way of thinking.
Cool. Well, I love the way that over your career, that you're exploring and obviously continuing and won't stop exploring the full human condition, and bringing your compassion to the works that you do. So again, I'm looking very forward to seeing this work on stage. I did want to give us a few minutes if anybody happens to have a question. Does anyone have a question? Yes?
Yeah. Could you talk about the music?
Yes, she asked about the music, which it's two different composers, so,
Yeah.
apart from you as a composer in terms of your poem,
Yeah.
your spoken word.
That's true. Yeah, so I composed a poem and then read it, and then my husband composed music underneath. So it's only the first one. He was going to start doing more of the composition, like to kind of replace some of the tracks, but he's now with his father in Ottawa, and life is just kind of hitting us with a lot of different things. So that didn't really happen in time, but he did compose the first part, and then the core of it's Ludovico. Oh no, he's not a professional composer, but he is a sound guy. Like his music goes through generations of his family, and he actually works in the theater. He's the school director at Dancers Workshop, but really I think his gift is sound. Like he will create sound and lights for some of the shows. He's in the main center of the arts. He runs sound for all the big companies that comes in, and he's really, just because he was a dancer and he's a musician, like what he does is just like the quality is pretty amazing. And so he's done a lot for me over the years. He just never has time to like compose anything because he's always doing a gazillion other things. So he's actually looking forward to spending some more time with the piece after I've done it and just like see what he can do with it. Yeah. But it's something really special to be able to work together in that way. And he's somebody I can 100% rely on. It's got my back. And I know the quality is like super high. So that means a lot to me. Yeah, and then Ludovico Einaudi is an Italian composer that I used about 10 years ago for a project. And then I just recently started listening to a bunch of stuff, and I've been kind of playing with it. I just love it because it has about that. So again, like that takes like a lot of load off of me.
How wonderful.
So, yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Well, that was going to be my question. If nobody had a question, was tell us about the sound. Yeah. So you beat me to that punchline, and thank you for that question. I do want to again say how wonderful it is that you were willing to stay afterward and be with us. I mean, the days are very long when you're choreographing. Your mind and your body get exhausted through the process of coming up with so much information, creatively speaking. So to stick around for another hour afterward is really, I'm very grateful that you did that. And I wish you all the best, for this work. I can't wait to see it.
Me too.
I know. We're all in the same boat.
Where's this mess going?
And thank you for joining us for the last couple hours to see her work in process and to hear from her. So hope you have a great night, safe travels home, and we'll see you at Johnson County Community College in about a week. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gina.